Hello folks, and welcome back to the channel. In this video I want to talk about a skill I believe is a gateway skill into ultra cycling and having long days on the bike relatively pain-free. Talking about riding on aero bars. This is something I think for a lot of people could be quite unnerving to begin with, but as long as you start out slowly with the right equipment, set it up well, it'll enable you to go on much longer journeys, much less pain, and maybe even a bit more quickly. So I'll show you the equipment I use, how I set it up for me, some of the mistakes I made to begin with, because I had some painful mistakes, and hopefully help you go on some long adventures. Let's go for a ride. If you watched any previous videos, thanks a lot for coming back. And if you haven't watched any, my name's Andy. I'm an ultra cyclist on the south coast of the UK. Videos I make are about ultra training, kit and adventures, so subscribe for more videos like this. Distance wise, I'm not riding very far today. As I'm recording this, last weekend was the Cornwall trip, so if you watched that was quite strenuous. So I'm just going for a bit of a short ride today, trying to recover a bit, and I wanted to talk about this and a couple of other things for a while now. So times like today are a good opportunity to rest my legs and mouth off a bit. Some people might be wondering, why bother using aero bars? You've seen people use them in the Tour de France, you've seen people use them on time trial stages, maybe you've got friends who ride time trials 5 miles long, 10 miles long, and that's what they're originally developed for, yeah. But in the ultra endurance scene, pretty much everybody uses aero bars for similar but different reasons. Yes, you're going to get an aerodynamic benefit. When you go into that position on the aero bars, your frontal area is smaller. When you're trying to move forward at pace, the biggest obstacle you have at keeping pace is your body in the wind. So the smaller your frontal area, the quicker you'll go. Even on long days when you're not pushing that hard, you're still going to save some energy and go further for less power. So that's a definite draw. I do use aero bars for that reason, but far more for comfort. When you've been on the bike for 18 hours and your hands have been on the bars being rattled to pieces, they get bruised and sore. You can shift them around on the drops when you're descending or rolling along, on the hoods when you need a bit more control, on the tops when you're climbing, but even so, there's only so much you can do before your hands get bruised. Adding aero bars gives you another position altogether, resting your forearms on some nice foam pads, and trust me, it makes a massive difference. When I'm riding on my other bikes, as soon as I get onto a nice flat piece of road, I find myself feeling the urge to drop onto the aero bars. I don't have them, they're only on my ultra bike. And I find myself just missing them. It's such a comfortable position. If you've been out and done all day rides and you're looking to get into multiple days, then you might have found already that your hands are getting pretty sore. So I think this is going to really help you to get past that and extend your rides far longer. So the first thing, I'm not sponsored by anybody for this. It's just my preference. I use Dida aero bars. The ones I use are called Dida Parabolica. And the reason I use them is because they have risers and lots of adjustability. When I first started using aero bars a few years ago, I bought some before London, Edinburgh, London. And to begin with, they're really, really good, but it wasn't long before I ran into some issues. The ones I originally bought were from Wiggle, the cheapest they did, and had very little adjustability. So while it did save my hands slightly, it ended up screwing me over pretty badly. I'll put up a picture now from that event. Great picture, I look really happy, but honestly, I promise you, I don't think I've ever been in as much pain as I was when that picture was taken. I remember exactly where it was. I started the event feeling really good and using the aero bars, saving my hands. But about halfway through when I got to Scotland, I started getting Achilles pains. And those Achilles pains got worse and worse, to the point I felt like they were just going to pop at any minute. And thankfully they didn't. But even so, I started to realise what was causing it. Because the aero bars were so close to the handlebars, there were no risers. My body was tilted forward more than necessary. And what that means is, if you collapse your hips, you'll pull your hamstrings tighter and that has a knock-on effect all the way down your legs. For me personally, it meant strain on the Achilles, and I started to realise every time I got on the aero bars, the Achilles were screaming. So then it meant all I could do was put my hands on the bars, stay as upright as possible, and try to get back from Scotland that way. So obviously, my hands got absolutely battered. I'm amazed I got back and finished that event. I did, but needless to say, very much worse for wear. So after I got back, I decided to invest a bit more and buy some better aero bars. So the ones I have now have risers. I put them as high as they'll go, all the risers, all the way up. So I get the benefit of being on those pads. My hands are saved. It's not as aero because I'm a bit more upright, but I don't care about that. I don't need to be aero. I'm more aero than I am on the handlebars anyway, and I'm comfortable, so I can go all day. So that's the first thing I'd say. If you're like me and you're a massive cheapskate, then just be warned, it might come back to bite you severely. So once you've got your aero bars, ones that you like, and they're set up how you like them, have a little feel. The first thing I'll say is a bit of a safety thing. I only use them on rolling terrain, on straight roads, places where it's safe. Very rarely will I use them in a city, on a downhill, or anything technical. You don't have access to your brakes, don't have access to your shifters unless you've got some little blips. So very limited access to anything. But when you're on rolling roads, it's amazing. So just be aware of that. Be careful. Don't use them on a fast downhill. There's really no benefit. Don't use them around sharp bends. You can't see what's coming. Don't use them next to parked cars. They might pull out on you or open the doors. Just use them where you don't need access to anything and you want to get comfortable and settle in. Okay, so safety covered off then. The first thing you're going to want to do, I say, go to a big car park or to a closed road or somewhere where you can practice a few times. It will feel different. It will feel a bit strange to not have access to your bars and to have your body compressed in, but it won't be long before it feels completely natural. I have a road quite close to me where something like this I can practice and have a quick go at quite easily. It's a bit bizarre to begin with. I'd say a little bit like riding no hands. It doesn't work as well when you're going really slowly. When you've got more momentum, you'll generally be much more stable. So if you're not confident and you're going very slowly, bear in mind, it will feel less stable. But even so, take it one step at a time and don't crash, don't hurt yourself. Once you've had a practice and you're comfortable, then take it out onto the road. There's no reason to fear it. If you're on the right kind of roads, then it's completely natural. Cars still pass you from behind, give you the same amount of space or lack of than they usually do. Just carry on. When you need access to your brakes or your shifters, one hand at a time, move back to the shifters. Before you know it, it'll be second nature and you'll be missing them when you're on a different bike. I find it really natural to switch from the drops straight to the aero bars at less than a second of no hands, and you got to be careful when you're doing things like that, but it's just an example of how you will get much more comfortable riding this way. It won't be long before you're opening your delicious Veloforte energy bars on the aero bars, both hands, motoring along and eating as you go. If anything, it's far more convenient for using your hands on the bike than not using aero bars. One thing I reckon you'll notice pretty much straight away is that it's not the most comfortable position in the world. So it takes a bit of training your body to adapt to be able to sit in that position for long periods. And the more you practice it, the more comfortable it'll get. So I'd say if you've got something in mind you want to use these for, put them on months before and just go out and spend time in that position. A little bit more each time, and slowly but surely it'll get easier and easier. And there we go. It really is as simple as that. I don't think this requires a long video or any more than we've gone over already, to be honest. If you're watching this and you've got more experience than I have, then as always, chip in with anything you think I might have missed. There's a lot of people that watch this with views to riding ultra distance at some point. Hopefully this helps you out and gets you out riding ultra long distances with very little pain. But if I've missed anything obvious, then let me know. So I'm just editing this video and I realised one thing I definitely missed, and that's the potential for neck strain on aero bars. Being in that position, tilted more forwards, is often a higher risk of neck strain. Often it's just how you're interacting with the aero bars. As long as you've got risers and you're not completely flat against the handlebars, then it's usually not too bad. I try to focus on looking up with my eyes. If I can just see the horizon, then that's plenty. All I really need to see is the road. There's nothing coming my direction I need to get around. I think the downfall of most people is looking up with their head. That puts a lot of strain on the neck muscles, much higher risk of Sherman's neck, and you really don't need to look up that much. Riding on aero bars does come at a bit of a cost of seeing all of the scenery, but you will go much further for it. I rode a couple of years ago, my first All Points North race. Riding through the northeast, I planned to go past the Angel of the North. It's a huge structure. I rode right past it and didn't even see it. I had to go and check my GPS to make sure I didn't detour, but definitely rode right next to it, didn't even see it. So often that comes down to how you want to ride your rides, but that's one drawback to aero bars. With your head down motoring along, you might miss some of the scenery. As I said earlier, I'm doing nothing strenuous today, just relaxing and taking it easy. So I'm gonna go home and make some burgers. So hope you all have a good week, and I'll see you on the next one. Look after yourselves.